Let me ask you a question. What comes to mind when I say evil scientist meets Animorphs meets the color green? What? No, it's not Mojo Jojo. What are you, a stupid idiot? The early 2000s were a sort of lawless wasteland when it came to games being released on consoles. I mean, for crying out loud, Nickelodeon Party Blast exists. I mean, what the hell is happening here? There were limitless possibilities for the kind of nonsense plot points and depths of hell character design that developers could shove into their video game blender.
Hey boss, I got a great idea. Let's take time-traveling cats with vacuum cleaners that fight monsters with literal garbage, and boom! Blinx the Time Sweeper.
By the way, I do actually enjoy Blinx the Time Sweeper, but you get the idea. Despite the absolutely incoherent nature of most console games, that type of bizarre game design is what made people curious and mesmerized enough to actually buy ridiculous Xbox, GameCube, and PS2 games. After all, no parent is going to question their kid's desire to play Avatar of Persia. Case in point, the only reason I bought the game that we're focusing on in this episode of the Hidden Gems Archive is because the art design on the game case honestly just made me want to find out what this character sounded like and why he's electrocuting various knockoff Pokemon. So, sit back, relax, put on your favorite pair of bunny slippers, and prepare to be enraptured by the disturbingly unique universe of Dr. Muto. Developed and published by Midway Games in 2002, Dr. Muto follows the story of a disheveled mad scientist who literally destroys the entire world in an effort to do pretty much the exact fucking opposite. Now you may be saying to yourself, hold on a minute, Midway Games? That sounds vaguely familiar, and also I think you're just trying to add historical filler to your YouTube video. Which either means you did nothing but play sports games from 1997 to 2008, or you've played Mortal Kombat. Midway Games wasn't necessarily known for publishing many recognizable game franchises, unlike
EA Games.
Charge for everything. And sadly, they filed for bankruptcy in 2009. Fortunately, they had the opportunity to bless me personally and nobody else with this freak of nature. We begin with the Nutty Professor deep in Slumberland, experiencing flashbacks from his childhood and younger years as a mad scientist. Muto has clearly made a legacy for himself as the inventor of Earthworm Jim and the maker of his own waifu. Near the end of the dream, a news channel is covering Dr. Muto's plan to end the energy crisis that is being caused by the corporate cockbag Bernatol and his industrial empire. Muto plans to use his new device that can supposedly power a dozen planets. What could possibly go wrong? In case you missed that part where I said
pretty much the exact fucking opposite,
things go horribly wrong. The planet explodes, and by the way, these guys could not give two shits. And Dr. Muto wakes up with bunny slippers on his feet and shit in his pants. Let's hear this guy's voice, shall we?
Oh, thank goodness. It was only a dream.
Oh, fuck. In all honesty though, this character voice is surprisingly memorable and fitting for this type of game. In a wacky world of scientific experiments and alien planets, the only suited voice to accompany you on the journey is obviously this. And also... Anyway, Dr. Emmett Brown Shorts over here gets up for a midnight snack where his admittedly nightmare-inducing minion reveals to him that whoopsie-daisy, he actually did blow up the world, and whoopsie-double-daisy, his only means of assistance come from a sarcastic supercomputer named Al, which is a reference to HAL 9000, and no, I've never actually seen 2001: A Space Odyssey. I have, however, played Munch's Odyssey, and that was released in 2001, so I think that still counts. So Dr. Muto devises a devious plan to construct the Genital 9000. Genitor 9000. A device that can rebuild the planet, which, based off of his previous invention, I'm not really sure what the fuck he's thinking. Al tells Muto that the genital pieces are scattered across the galaxy, that the device is fueled by pieces of biomatter called Terra, and that he needs to collect isotopes to fuel some processors. So there's your story. Teleport to different planets, steal a bunch of their shit to build the Genitor 9000, grab some D&D dice and everlasting gobstoppers on your way, and bada bing, bada... Earth will be just fine.
what could possibly go wrong?
Oh, shit!
Real quick, look at this walk cycle. Hey Doc, you good? After collecting some isotopes to stop a simple reactor meltdown, Al tells you that the chip you'll need for beaming yourself down to the planets is lost in the basement, which sounds perfectly logical, until he follows it up with,
press the Y button to morph into a mouse and enter the teleporter.
here's the main gimmick of the game, okay? Dr. Muto has a fetish of transforming into various animals and alien-like experiments using his, splizz. That can't be right.
Splizz!
Splizz?
Splizz!
Okay, cool. Sounds like a racial slur, but we'll let it slide. Press your handy-dandy morph button, and...
The Great Mouse Detective is on the case.
I haven't actually seen The Great Mouse Detective. I don't know if they have an accent. Moving on, once you get the chip, you can use the telescope translator thingy to visit your first planet. Enjoy a luxurious getaway on the planet Toltec. Spend your mornings searching for fossils in the fields and take a load off in our glorious jacuzzis. With petting zoos featuring puppies and monkeys and a fully staffed security. Toltec, eat shit, fuckface. Alright, so here's the gameplay breakdown for the Doctor.
Move number 1, Sith Lightning.
Dr. Muto's Splizz gun can emit a zippy-zappy lightning field. Mainly it's used to harvest the DNA of creatures on each world, which Muto uses to unlock his various personas later on. The second function is really just a stun gun, which can, well, stun certain enemies or suck hearts from any enemies that can't be harvested. And lastly, it's used as a mighty suck and cuck machine. It grapples up enemies and flings them into walls. Talk about satisfying. I mean,
Bam! Move number 2, Fruit Loops of Doom.
this is your basic attack. It shoots out flaming hot Cheerios, kills most things in at least a couple hits, and kinda sounds like the try me function on a laser pistol toy at Walmart.
Move number 3, Magic Shoes.
It's your double jump. You press A once to jump, press it again to jump in midair, and you can also hold it to glide. Welcome to video games.
And move number 4,
Basically, once you've collected the right amount of specific DNA, you unlock a new morph form, and the first one you get is a cute little mouse who harnesses the power of Simon Belmont himself, and also has an amazingly fitting vocal performance. Now, the movement in this game is polished really well, and when you play as the Doctor, you have this jaunty little strut which still provides sufficient control, and when you're a mouse, you prance around with a nice pitter-patter to go along with it, like, damn, I am Stuart Little. All of the morphs actually have the same basic controls. You have an attack, a grapple move, and some form of jump or movement mechanic. The mouse, for example, stores enemies in his cheeks before spitting them out, because gross, calories, and like I mentioned before, his attack is a tail whip. It's a pretty simple solution to giving the player a bunch of different characters to play as without having to pop up some tutorial box to teach them how to play as the new form every time. So, like I said before, the main goal on your journey is to firstly collect machine parts for the Genitor, which are usually just placed at checkpoints throughout the level, but also dropped from bosses. By the way, one of the parts is literally just a kitchen sink, so I'm about 100% certain this thing can rebuild the planet no problem. You also need to collect Terra, which you obtain from completing various objectives, sort of like side quests. Your
Master Plan.
aka
Pause menu.
gives you hints as to where you can find these, either hidden away in rat holes, rewarded from activating switches on a timer, or using special inventions that you unlock later. And finally, the isotopes, which, wow, my spider shit senses are tingling because these things are fucking
Everywhere.
They don't serve any actual purpose besides the fact that a certain amount is required to unlock your formulas and gadget blueprints, so getting enough is pretty simple and collecting them all isn't required. But I collect as many as I can anyway because this sound really butters my egg roll. Now, believe it or not, this game actually moves pretty fast along the track of getting you different forms to play as. About an hour into Toltec, you unlock Donkey Kong's crackhead brother as a new morph.
This beautiful beast with a steroid physique claps freaks and pounds cheeks, hanging on monkey bars for weeks while he gobbles up the geeks.
This might be the most satisfying morph to play as, mainly because giving enemies a nice crispy two-handed high five is only second best to the barrage of bodacious butt bombs. Playing as all of these morphs never feels like you're trying to learn how to control yourself. Intuitively, playing as a gorilla, you'll immediately master your sense of speed and abilities, because, well, you're an ape now. Why wouldn't you move the way that you do? And when you morph into a mouse, obviously you'll be more nimble and capable of traveling faster, so most of your deaths or mistakes aren't caused by your failure to control yourself in a new form. I mean, this is basic 3D gameplay necessity. If the player isn't in control of their landings, spacing, and overall movement, the player gets frustrated by unfair deaths, and this game does everything right to make sure that you as a player are making your own mistakes. Also, having stylized and suiting movement for every morph just makes you feel like you really did just transform into that ungodly abomination. Speaking of which, halfway through the first level, you also unlock...
What is that? What the fuck is that?
The spider is another morph capable of crawling into small spaces. And much like most spiders, this one poops out explosive eggs and can also shoot them from its mouth. Instead of a jump, because we all know spiders can't jump, it has a grappling hook in the form of a spider loogie, which pulls you onto distant web surfaces and pulls in enemies to eat. Except for when it's used on an enemy you can't eat, in which case... Needless to say, the spider can stick to any web surface, allowing you to walk on walls and ceilings, complementing world exploration in certain areas. You can look around in human form for spider webs, plot the course, and then navigate the sticky walls to find or accomplish your next objective. The world design in general gets a gold star from me, with 4 visually distinct worlds to play through and every world featuring subdivisions of areas within those worlds. Toltec has the junkyard, the vats, and the factory sections, and the next world of Aquiem has places like a hydro station and the waterworks. You'll probably be on the same planet for at least a couple hours, but you travel through a nice handful of varying scenic locations during that time. And even more designs are featured in the secret areas. Even a relatively simple rafter system can become a fully fleshed out obstacle course, because you're navigating it as a mouse. And it was not after entering a loading screen and fucking do. No. You saw the mouse hole, morphed, and hopped inside yourself. In fact, there isn't a single loading screen once you've actually warped down to the level. This whole planet is one giant experience, interconnected by your ability to utilize different morphs and travel to new areas.
Eat your heart out, Skyrim load times.
While we're on the topic of loading screens, Dr. Muto sometimes does some sick-ass breakdancing, which is pretty absurd. Okay, all of the animations are absurd. The mouse is doing backflips and the monkey's flexing on the haters, but that's perfectly fine. It makes collecting parts in Terra satisfying, and also benefits characterization of your morphs. Even if it does start to get a tad repetitive. I get it. You're very strong. Thank you. Speaking of nothing to do with any of that, there are a few other things that the Spliz gun can do. It can hold explosive barrels, which I'm sure you can imagine what to do with those. Plus, you can use it to flip normal-ass switches instead of just using your boring human hands, which makes perfect sense to me.
Welcome to video games.
And it can also capture these creatures called gomers, which are used to activate special switches, cover barrels in goo to make them safer, open gomer crates, and when they're launched, they... Most of the time, you'll end up interacting with gomers and navigating through obstacles that fit the theme of the world. For example, Toltec is a factory-styled waste planet, so expect things like hydraulic platforms, conveyor belts, large moving machinery, and things like launch pads and pistons. This is a 3D adventure game after all, so fuck it, throw in those side-scrolling sections, wall-climbing rooms, icy slides, you name it. Now, if you recall, I mentioned briefly the existence of gadgets. There are 7 pieces for each unlockable gadget, each of which is in its own scrap parts crate. Here's a list of the gadgets.
Number 1. Rocket boots.
Slap these babies on your feet and shoot for the stars. Careful not to lose all the skin on your face.
Number 2. Super boots.
Slap these babies on your feet and shoot for the roof, because it's basically just an improved double jump.
Number 3. Invisibility.
Enemies can't see shit. I shouldn't have to explain this one.
Number 4. Pocket rocket.
It's a damn rocket launcher. Go first person and suddenly you are the rocket. You die as the rocket, you die for real.
Number 5. Super baller.
Minigun that shoots gumballs that explode. Yeah, this game's rated teen.
And number 6. Invulnerability.
Enemies can't hit shit, and now you're the Terminator.
These gadgets partly help out with general progress, but most are required to complete certain objectives, like blasting up a shaft with rocket boots or using the Super Baller to murder puppies. I'd like to remind you this game is rated teen. Eventually, you'll make your way to the boss of each planet. As Bernatal's henchmen, they really just fucking hate Dr. Muto's guts for various personal reasons, and yes, surprise surprise, all of the voice acting is pretty good and the designs are all unique. The first boss is Danny DeVito in Kaiju Battle Armor, and beating him is a matter of whipping his toe button as the mouse and then clapping his ass as the monkey. Before we move on, go ahead and watch this cutscene and tell me on a scale of 1 to 10 how close you were to audibly saying, Jesus.
Whoa! You little freaking freak! Find it, I will have your ass for this!
Yeah, the boss deaths are pretty brutal. But hey, there's no blood, so T for teen. Sweet. So the next planet in line is Qumu, and oh god, it's a fucking water level? The morph that you unlock on this planet is the spiny fish. Oh, it's so ugly. Your attack methods are spike missiles, which explode on impact, sure why not, and a spinning dash attack, perfect for plowing through enemies and bumping into walls every 10 seconds. And the spin attack will also let you breach the surface like a graceful dolphin. And yeah, fish can swim, so that's how you move. Movement in water isn't as awkward and irritating as it might sound. You are a fish after all, so it's not like you sluggishly float through the water like a human would. There's a distinct separation between exploring watery areas on foot and exploring underwater sections. There's a specific form for each challenge, so this water level gets a pass. Besides, it's got a great variety of puzzles and hazards, like panel switches, dangerous transportation hallways, and even a giant whirlpool. And not only that, you'll start noticing that the goals you accomplish mesh together with other morphs. Like in this case, where once you use your spiny fish morph to activate these switches and release these bars, you'll immediately make the connection that you need to find out where those bars flew off to, or remember where you saw some missing and use your gorilla morph to access that next area. This game doesn't just give you a new pet to play with and say, okay, cool, use these new moves for a couple hours, and then, how do you feel about monkey euthanasia? You've got the access to all your morphs, and your knowledge of their abilities combined helps you explore and make progress. Granted, some morphs are unusable in certain areas, but hey, why would you want to morph into a spider on the water planet?
Oh shit! What?
Besides that, sections do exist where morphing is completely disabled, which you might be thinking,
Why can't I morph? That's like playing The Sims without the crippling financial debt.
but calm down, okay? These sections act as challenges designed specifically for Dr. Muto, who tends to have less advanced movement. And to give you a break from listening to that morph sound, oh goddamn day. Anyway, the boss on planet Qumu is Ariel's ugly stepsister, who kind of has a thing for Dr. Muto, and I think he rejected her in the past. But anyway, long story short. Now, we've reached the point of no return, and the point where you'll start to subconsciously realize that yeah, this game is cock-rockin' hard sometimes, but it's still consistently enjoyable throughout, and it's got a well-executed learning curve while you start to memorize enemy patterns, and practice makes perfect, or whatever school poster I decide to put up during editing.
But damn, we're really cooking with
Mayonnaise.
Now, because yes, they really did add a flying squirrel. And what's that, you ask? Why, yes, it does control fluidly, and is also a clever character design, and is also kind of cute, and also spits acid. And if you've been paying attention, which I sure as hell hope you have been after 17 minutes and 47 seconds, you may have noticed that all of these morphs are aesthetically designed to partly resemble Dr. Muto. At the very least, they all feature his trademark hairstyle, and some of them also have his lab coat and/or goggles. I'm sure the team spent an obscene amount of time designing and detailing these models, and I think it's well worth it. Look, the spider even has little shoes. How adorable. Oh god, never mind. Anyway, this third planet called Flotos has got 2 floating fortresses connected by a space portal, which is not a loading screen and is in fact more content? What? I mean, like... And look, even more content. One of the fortresses is just a giant minigame cube. Fly around the outside and use your spitball to activate switches while dodging varying types of obstacles. You can enter inside the main sphere for lifeguard duty gone wrong, or explore the furnaces for... What are we playing, Donkey Kong now? In an effort to save time, the boss of this world is... redneck Clint Eastwood or whatever, and then you move on to the final planet, Mazon. At this point, I hope I don't have to mention that yes, this world is unique from the rest of the worlds and introduces new obstacles and challenges the entire time. So, after breaking several of your controllers, you finally make your way to Bernatol himself. Spider-Man's pretty pissed off at this point, so you kick his ass and he tries to get away in a rocket ship, which at this point is revealed to have been invented by Dr. Muto, and then Al is all like, check this out, and so...
Holy shit.
If you've collected enough parts, terra, and isotopes, the planet is successfully rebuilt. There are two endings, one of which shows the planet being rebuilt into just a barren wasteland, and Dr. Mito's like, fuck it, close enough. And the other ending, for getting 100% completion, shows the planet fully restored to its original form, and it pans to a woman with huge Banghanaga hogs, and that would be the suggestive themes part of the rating. To put it simply, Dr. Muto is a bizarre and brilliantly designed action-adventure platformer with a massive variety in world design and a finely crafted attention to the weirdest kind of details. And if you want to experience the humor and excitement of this game, it's $30 on every console, so have a fucking brain blast with that. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll spliz you next time. Nope, still sounds like a euphemism.